The United States has reached a grim milestone. The national debt has now exceeded a staggering $33 trillion, a figure that is almost incomprehensible in its enormity. This colossal sum represents the total amount of money the federal government owes to its creditors, a number that continues to grow with each passing second. The debt is a combination of various financial obligations, including U.S. Treasury bonds, bills and notes, which are essentially IOUs from the government. These instruments are held by a diverse group of creditors. These creditors range from individual citizens and businesses to foreign governments and even the federal government itself, through various trust funds and accounts. The national debt clock, prominently displayed in New York City, serves as a constant visual reminder of this ever-growing financial burden. It ticks upwards at an alarming rate, reflecting the continuous accumulation of debt. The implications of this massive debt are far-reaching and complex. It influences various aspects of the economy, from the value of the US dollar to the government's ability to fund essential services and invest in future growth. The value of the dollar can be affected by the national debt, as high levels of debt may lead to inflation or reduced confidence in the currency. This, in turn, impacts everyday life, from the cost of goods and services to the ability to save for the future. Understanding how the U.S. arrived at this point is crucial to addressing this pressing economic challenge. The journey to $33 trillion in debt is a complex tale of policy decisions, economic events, and unforeseen crises. This essay will delve into the intricacies of the U.S. national debt, exploring its history, the various causes that have contributed to its growth, and the potential consequences if it continues to rise unchecked. It will examine the factors that have led to this situation, including government spending on social programs, defense, and other areas, as well as tax policies that have affected revenue. Economic shocks, such as recessions and financial crises, have also played a significant role. Additionally, the essay will present insights from leading economists and financial experts on potential solutions to manage and reduce the national debt. These solutions may include policy changes, spending cuts, tax reforms, and other measures aimed at fiscal responsibility. The aim is to provide a clear and comprehensive analysis of the national debt, enabling readers to understand its significance fully. By doing so, we hope to foster informed public discourse and encourage meaningful conversations about the implications of the national debt for the present and future of the U.S. economy.
To fully grasp the magnitude of the $33 trillion national debt, it's essential to place it in historical context. Understanding how we arrived at this staggering figure requires a journey through the economic and political decisions of the past several decades. In 1981, the national debt crossed the $1 trillion mark for the first time. This milestone was a wake-up call for many, signaling a new era of fiscal challenges and economic debates. This was a significant event at the time, sparking debates about fiscal responsibility and the role of government spending. Politicians and economists were divided on how to address the growing debt, with some advocating for austerity measures while others pushed for continued investment in public programs. Fast forward 4 decades, and the debt has skyrocketed by more than 3,000%. This exponential growth is not just a number. It represents the cumulative impact of numerous policy decisions, economic events, and global crises. This dramatic increase reflects a confluence of factors, including economic crises, tax cuts, wars, and increased spending on social programs. Each of these elements has played a role in shaping the current fiscal landscape. The Reagan administration's economic policies, characterized by tax cuts and increased military spending, contributed to a significant rise in the debt during the 1980s. Reaganomics, as it was called, aimed to stimulate economic growth, but also led to higher deficits. The early 1990s saw a brief period of deficit reduction under President Clinton, marked by a budget surplus in the late 90s. However, this period of fiscal restraint was short-lived. The subsequent years saw renewed increases in the debt due to factors like the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and the 2008 financial crisis. These events necessitated substantial government spending, further inflating the national debt. The COVID-19 pandemic further exacerbated the situation, as massive government spending programs were implemented to mitigate the economic fallout. Trillions of dollars were allocated for relief efforts, including stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, and support for businesses, adding significantly to the national debt. This historical overview highlights the complex interplay of events and policy decisions that have shaped the trajectory of the national debt. From the economic policies of the 80s to the crises of the 21st century, each chapter in this story has contributed to the current fiscal reality. Understanding this context is crucial for any meaningful discussion about the future of the national debt and the economic health of the nation.
While the nominal value of the national debt is undoubtedly important, economists often focus on the debt-to-GDP ratio as a more meaningful indicator of a country's fiscal health. This ratio expresses the national debt as a percentage of the country's gross domestic product, providing a relative measure of the debt burden. A high debt-to-GDP ratio suggests that a country may have difficulty repaying its debts, potentially leading to higher interest rates, inflation, and slower economic growth. Conversely, a low ratio indicates a more manageable debt burden and greater fiscal sustainability. Currently, the US debt-to-GDP ratio stands at over 120%, meaning the national debt exceeds the country's annual economic output. This figure has raised concerns among economists and policymakers, as it suggests that the US is living beyond its means. Projections from the Congressional Budget Office paint a concerning picture, with the debt-to-GDP ratio expected to continue rising in the coming decades, reaching unsustainable levels if current trends persist. This underscores the urgent need for fiscal reforms to avert a potential economic crisis.
The growth of the national debt can be attributed to a complex interplay of factors, with government spending, tax policies, and economic shocks playing significant roles. These elements are deeply intertwined, each influencing the other in a myriad of ways. Understanding these drivers is crucial to formulating effective solutions. Economists and policymakers must delve into the nuances of each factor to craft strategies that can mitigate the debt's growth. Government spending encompasses a wide range of programs and services, including defense, social security, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Each of these sectors demands significant financial resources, and their funding is often a subject of intense debate. While some level of government spending is essential for a functioning society, ensuring public safety and providing necessary services, excessive or inefficient spending can contribute to a growing national debt. Mismanagement and wasteful projects can drain resources without delivering the intended benefits. Tax policies, which determine the government's revenue stream, are equally critical. The structure of the tax system, including rates and loopholes, directly affects how much revenue the government can collect. Also play a crucial role. Effective tax policies can help balance the budget, while poorly designed ones can exacerbate fiscal imbalances. When government spending consistently outpaces revenue, it creates a budget deficit. This gap between income and expenditure is a primary driver of national debt. It creates a budget deficit, which can be challenging to manage without resorting to borrowing, forcing the government to borrow money, often through the issuance of bonds. This borrowing adds to the national debt, creating a cycle that can be difficult to break, and adding to the national debt. Furthermore, economic shocks such as recessions, wars, and natural disasters can significantly impact the national debt. These unexpected events can disrupt economic stability and necessitate emergency spending, such as recessions, wars, and natural disasters, can significantly impact the national debt. These events often require immediate and substantial financial responses, can significantly impact the national debt. During recessions, for example, tax revenues typically decline, while demand for government assistance programs increases. These events often necessitate increased government spending on social safety net programs and economic stimulus measures, which are essential to support affected populations and stimulate economic recovery, leading to larger budget deficits. The increased spending, combined with reduced revenue, can quickly expand the national debt, and a more rapid accumulation of debt. This accumulation can have long-term consequences, affecting the country's financial health and its ability to respond to future crises. Addressing the national debt requires a comprehensive understanding of these interconnected factors. Policymakers must consider the broader economic context and the potential long-term impacts of their decisions, and a willingness to implement fiscal policies that promote long-term sustainability. This includes making tough choices about spending priorities, tax reforms, and strategies to boost economic growth. Only through a balanced and informed approach can the national debt be managed effectively.